Hello everyone, welcome back to FAQ. This is FAQ episode 2, long awaited, and 2 is 2 times as big as 1.
Yeah.
I'm your host, William Mullendore.
And I'm your co-host, Andrew Farris.
And today we got quite the arrangement of spicy questions to answer. And without further ado, I think we should jump into the first question.
Let's get into it.
It's time to question the answers.
Yes!
This is the awesome hat of questions. This is where we have awesome questions and first question of today's video. Thoughts on wrestling? All right, Andrew, what are our thoughts on wrestling?
I don't know. I think first we should talk about the history of wrestling.
Ooh, yeah, I agree on that.
Yeah.
You need to be able to fully understand something before divulging into the topic.
Divulging.
Mm-hmm. It's the word of the day, divulging.
Divulging.
Mm-hmm. Description. That's a cool word.
That is a cool word. Okay, back on topic. It goes without saying, wrestling is old, right? Mm-hmm. Did you know that Greco-Roman wrestling was heavily featured in the ancient Olympic Games?
Oh, really?
Greco-Roman is Greek-Roman. Oh. Romans kind of steal a lot of things from the Greeks. They really like Greece.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, the sport has been referenced in the Iliad, which was written in 800 BCE, which is pretty old. Mm-hmm. And even older is, it's also been, wrestling has been documented in cave paintings in France, which actually date back to around 15,000 years old.
15,000 years old. That is crazy.
That's a few years.
That is a few years. I think that may be as old as my grandma.
Really?
She may be a little older, though. I'll have to ask her what she thought of the first wrestling match ever. But I didn't realize it stretched that far back. Something else that's important to talk about is what counts as wrestling. When you think of wrestling, what comes to your mind?
People fighting, but they don't punch. There's no punching in wrestling, I don't think.
No, that's more MMA, which that's more boxing, if anything.
Yeah. To be fair, it might not be surprising that wrestling is so old if it's just like
grabbing people. If it's just yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's just it's a pure art form of sport, really. I mean, it makes sense why it's one of the older ones because it's all you really need, especially in the olden days. They did not have any gear. They were just like rock. Yeah. They had rocks and maybe leaves and branches, but no, it was mostly just skin on skin, which wrestling still is, but there's obviously now protective gear.
Yeah.
I think it's important to distinguish that there's 2 main types of wrestling.
Absolutely.
There's your more scripted wrestling, which is professional wrestling. Yeah. And then there's the more like typical wrestling, like the more like skin to skin, like actual wrestling, which is competitive. Yeah.
So for a lot of professional wrestling, things are scripted. Sorry to burst your bubble. So basically. Okay, let me give you some examples. Have you heard of lucha libre before?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Big
it's very, very popular in Mexico, where these decorated masks and they're like heroes. And so there's also strong style, which is mostly found in Japan. And there's also pro wrestling, which is like the WWE and stuff. And then on the competitive wrestling, which some would call real wrestling, others would say it's just competitive wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay, so freestyle wrestling and Greco-Roman wrestling, both of those are Olympic sports. And folk style wrestling originated mostly in the U.S. And then there's also sumo wrestling, which I know you've heard of.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of sumo wrestling. I think sumo wrestling gets a lot of like discredit because of like maybe the outfits they wear. I hear a lot about that, and I think it's just I think it's unfair. I think personally, my favorite type of wrestling to watch is sumo and then Lucha Libre.
Yeah.
I enjoy those the most out of any of those that we've mentioned so far. What's your favorite competitive and professional?
Competitive and out of those two?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've actually watched competitive wrestling before.
Oh, really?
I don't think so. You don't see it as much on TV.
No, you really don't, which I think is which is sad. Yeah, it's the most like common wrestling you tune into is WWE, which is your professional wrestling. But no, you really don't see that much.
But to be fair,
competitive.
if it's professional wrestling, it's also entertainment wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's one that deserves to be on TV, it's entertainment wrestling.
Yeah, but I do think both should be on the air. But I think just to learn a little bit more about wrestling,
Yeah.
I think I need to call up a friend.
A friend?
A friend in the field, Ashlie Miller. Hello. Today to find out a little bit more about wrestling, we are joined by Ashlie Miller, a competitive wrestler for the women's wrestling team here at Truman. Sadly, she ended up suffering some injuries, and she had to take a leave. But we're still going to ask her because I have my full faith in her knowledge in wrestling. So, what specific type of wrestling do you compete in, Ashlie?
It is competitive.
So, Ashlie, what type of wrestling do you prefer watching? Competitive, professional?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both? Do you consider professional wrestling real wrestling? Like the WWE, Lucha Libre?
No,
No, you don't think it's a real wrestling?
no, I don't. I think they use like a green screen for most of those moves.
Most of the moves, okay. Interesting takes. Could you describe some common wrestling moves you used while wrestling?
The main one most wrestlers use is called a shot.
That's called a shot.
Yeah, it's where you go for the legs essentially
Okay.
to trip them.
Okay.
It's one way to get to the ground. It's the easiest one.
What type of gear do you have to wear for your sport?
We either wear a singlet or a doublet. Mostly, I prefer the singlet. And then we have to wear this sort of headgear that covers your ears and only your ears to prevent you from getting cauliflower ear. But that's pretty much it. Oh, and wrestling shoes, of course.
Actually, while you were competing in wrestling, how did you train?
I trained for about an hour and a half after school every day, including Saturdays. The only day I had off was Sunday. And on Saturdays we would go from 10:30 to about 11:30-ish.
What type of training did you do during these sessions?
Well, we would start with warm-ups, then we would do a little practice moves, and then we would go live.
Finally, what are your just thoughts on wrestling as a sport? Do you enjoy it? You know.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good sport if you want to get your anger and aggression out, and it doesn't involve a ball. So.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ashlie. Now that we have a little bit more experience on wrestling, I think we can fully divulge our thoughts on the topic. Thank you so much. Well, now that we've heard from Ashlie, wrestling makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's a valuable sport that kind of gets slept on compared to football and soccer and baseball. And I think it's an important sport to support and to watch.
Yeah.
Personally, I like it more than football. I will say it.
I mean, the athletes work just as hard.
They do.
It's not-
They do.
Yeah.
And I think that it's an important sport in the history of the world.
Yeah.
One of the first sports ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important piece of history that we shouldn't forget about.
Time for question 2.
Yay!
Question 2.
FAQ.
Yes.
2. Question 2. This is awesome.
Coincidence, I think not. Okay. Are you ready? You gotta do your due diligence.
Andrew, read this question for me.
No, you do the honors. Go ahead. What?
We can't do this.
What do you mean?
No, we can't do this. Who wrote this? No, we can't do
What
this.
does it say? What?
We can't do that one. We can't do that one. Gordon's going to shut us down if we even do that. That's not cool.
What? It only says do it fart.
Andrew.
What?
Andrew, it says do it fart. We can't do this.
What do you mean?
This is FAQ. We can't stand for this. Mario. We know you wrote that question. Why'd you write it?
Why'd you write it?
I didn't do anything.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did. Why did you think you could get away with
I
writing
can tell you.
such a
I can tell
hard
you
question?
exactly where I was.
Okay.
Number one, I don't know if you drugged me. I don't know how I got here. I just woke up from my
We have
slumber.
our ways.
Exactly.
Very ethical.
I was at week 18 in the NFL. I was at a Carolina Panthers game. Can't you tell by my jersey? How long have you had me? What day is it? What year is it?
It's 2035.
It's impossible.
You're right.
Is it impossible?
I didn't
Because
write
it
that
is
question.
impossible.
I didn't write that question.
You wrote the question. We've traced your fingerprints back to you.
What does it mean? What does it mean though?
You can't get away with writing a question like "Do it, fart, Mario."
What does do it fart mean, goddammit?
You wrote the question.
What does do it fart mean, goddammit? I don't know what do it fart means.
We know you do because you wrote the question, Mario.
How could I
You're the
possibly?
mastermind behind this.
Do you think I was lollygagging enough to write that question after you
Who do
gave
you
me those
work
rules?
for?
Batman!
Badman or Batman?
Big difference.
Batman. He's made as a bat. Like a baseball bat.
Can you repeat it again?
Yeah.
He's made like a bat.
Hold on, I'm not
A
sure the
baseball
audio
bat.
got that. Let me check real quick. Okay, say that again very carefully.
We're talking about a bat. A baseball bat.
Yeah, I don't think that's picking up. Yeah, no. You know what? You know what is picking up? Andrew's fist. It's picking up momentum because he's angry.
I'm so angry right now.
How dare you?
Why did you write the question? That's all we
I
need
didn't
to know.
write the question
You wrote the
because
question.
you will know what it means to do it fart. I'm going to take over this podcast one question at a time. Podcast show, no matter what it may be. I'm everywhere.
No.
I'm in your eyelids at night. I watch you while you sleep. I'm in your brain like plankton. I'm in your brain like plankton with a remote control. I'm controlling your every movement. You will know what it means. Do it fart.
Okay, well.
No! Wow! It's question 3 times.
It's question 3 times. You gotta root
Really?
me on for this.
Andrew Farris! Andrew Farris! Andrew Farris!
Thoughts on cowboy hats? Howdy, partner.
Howdy, partner. So,
Yes.
what makes a cowboy hat a cowboy hat?
A cowboy. That's a good question. What makes a cowboy a cowboy?
Well, what makes a cow a cow?
What makes a boy a boy?
What makes a...
You know, they say there aren't many stupid questions. Except that one. That was a stupid question. I'm sorry, Will.
So, Andrew, what do cowboy hats represent to you?
Country music and cowboys and rodeos, lassos, outlaws,
Outlaws. Cactuses.
sheriffs,
Cacti.
cactuses.
Cacti.
You're right.
Bones in a desert. Dry bones. Horses.
Horses, for sure.
Horseback. Cowboy boots with those little spiral things.
The spurs.
Spurs, yes,
Yeah.
there we go. And most importantly, the Wild West.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to talk about the wild history of cowboy hats. So, did you know cowboy hats were originally designed to protect cow herders from long hours under the sun, but in today's society, they're not only worn on horseback.
Well, it makes sense.
The first cowboy hat is often attributed to what's called the Boss of the Plains hat in 1865, which was manufactured by John B. Stetson.
Stetson observed vaqueros, or Native Mexican cowboys, wearing felt sombreros in the American West. And he became inspired to develop a more lightweight and weather-suited hat for cowherders and settlers in the region.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. However, the origins of the cowboy hat, as we know it today, come from the Fulani people of northern and western Africa, who were captured, enslaved, and then taken to Mexico during the North Atlantic slave trade. And they created a new style of woven and leather hat, and they were the first to develop a way of herding cattle using rope, which is the lasso.
Oh, wow. Cowboy hats come in many different forms.
Really?
And are shaped to accommodate specific needs. The sides of the brim are often curved up on the sides to prevent swinging lassos.
Oh, really? That's what that's for.
Yeah, and the crown, or the top of the hat, is frequently pitched in a way that allows for better control of the hat.
Very interesting. Well,
Very interesting. Before we fully dive into the rest of this topic, I think we need to interview some cowboy hat experts to make sure that I am trained and qualified, that we are trained and qualified to talk about cowboy hats.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I know just the person.
Who?
Christian Bates.
He's a cowboy hat expert?
Hello, this is Christian Bates. Hello, Andrew. I'm going to ask you a question today. It's a very important question. All right. What are your thoughts on cowboy hats?
I don't really wear them that often.
Well, apparently Christian Bates wasn't the exact expert I thought he was.
Yeah.
But I do have another contact in cowboy hats.
Who is it?
It's my grandpa Gary.
Really?
And guess what? He's coming in right now.
Where is he?
I don't know. He's been dead for a while. He's been dead for many years. But
I'm so sorry.
there's one thing to take away, or one main topic that is important and relevant to today. He was a cowboy hat expert.
He
had
was?
many cowboy hats. And before he died, he passed on the rules of cowboy etiquette to me. And I'm about to share the deep Mullendore secret of cowboy hats.
Yeah.
And I think it's time to pass it on to you.
Really?
So from AmericanHatmakers.com, take off your hat when first meeting someone, in a church or praying, when the national anthem is playing, or attending indoor funerals or weddings.
Yeah.
Remove it by the crown, and have the interior facing down or towards your chest, depending on the scenario. Always store your cowboy hat upside down to protect the brim from being damaged. You don't want a creased brim. It's going to look weird. Generally, wear cowboy hats outside.
Yeah.
Only really wear them inside for informal situations.
Okay.
On formal occasions, only wear dark cowboy hats. You don't want to go to your grandma's funeral wearing a giant neon green cowboy hat. I think that would be, I don't know, unless if your grandma was really cool, then you could. But just genuinely rule of thumb.
What if it's like a happy occasion, like a wedding?
You're happy that your grandma died, so you're wearing like a bright neon
Oh
green.
no! What if it's like a formal occasion, like a wedding?
Well, you don't want to. Yeah, I mean, you can wear light.
But I guess you're not supposed to wear white in weddings.
Yeah, because then you could get a mix up. Unless if it's your wedding.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
That's true.
Tip your hat as a sign of respect.
Could you please demonstrate?
It's my invisible, my
Your
grandpa's
invisible hat.
ghost hat. Never wear your cowboy hat backwards. I mean, it's fine to do it with certain hats, but cowboy hat's just not a good idea. The final rule of cowboy hat etiquette is never touch another person's cowboy hat without permission. I think that just goes, just don't touch someone without their permission. Especially do not touch their hat. That's it's just disrespectful, and you need consent. Consent is a very important thing to have.
Well, thank you for telling me this. My life is forever changed now that I know cowboy hat etiquette, and I hope your lives are changed too.
Yeah, for all the many times you'll be wearing cowboy hats in the future, you can thank.
Which will be a lot.
You can thank FAQ members, Will and Andrew, and my dead grandpa, and AmericanHat.com. This question. Do we believe in dragons? Andrew,
Yeah.
do we believe in dragons?
Yes. We've been made aware of their existence from trustworthy sources on the internet. In fact, they've been thriving on Earth since ancient times and weren't scientifically documented until the first half of the 20th century. The dragons are native to a few islands in Indonesia, but they can also be viewed in many secure locations around the world. Unsurprisingly, they are the largest lizard on the planet. They're scaly and have yellow forked tongues. They are dangerously venomous and have long saw-like teeth, which they use to attack their prey. Their average diet includes large deer. The range of hearing is limited, very limited, in fact, so that it's impossible for them to hear the shrill screams of humans.
Did he actually commit any crimes?
Then he wrote such a bad question. He wrote the
Yeah, but
worst
like-
question in the history of mankind.
Am I free to go?
So absurd, so disgusting. We have to censor it for your own good, for the people's.
But
own
I got a
good.
question for you. Do you know anything about the Denny scandal? That's what I thought.
You can't blackmail me. We're blackmailing you right now.
That's not how it works.
That's just
You don't
not
know-
how it works.
You don't know what this is.
You have to wait your turn, dude.
You think you're interrogating us?
We're interrogating you.
Oh, Sid.
You
I'm
have the hard
interrogating
light on you. You
I'm
have the.
interrogating
It's
you.
not fair, dude.
It's very fair. I'm interrogating you. I'm gonna interrogate you. And you're gonna like it.
You won't get away with your horrid crimes against humanity. The
You know.
police chief,
But you don't
Mr.
understand.
Gordon, is on his way to arrest you, Mario. I'm sorry,
Nah.
but
I don't think y'all understand. I
your
have
time,
multiple different
your time here
personalities.
at Truman, your tyranny here.
When are you gonna
We know
understand?
you're behind
When are
everything.
you gonna understand? I got multiple different personalities. We
You
all
won't get
got an
away with this.
agenda.
You won't get away with it.
Yep, we're all coming for you.
God.
Yep.
It's worse than we thought.
You wanna know what it means to a fart?
We may be over our heads in this.
Should we just let him go? Like maybe he'll like run into the forest or something.
Can I go? I think I was supposed to get a haircut like I was supposed to get a haircut like 11 years ago.
That seems about right.
Yeah, man. I don't know if you can tell by how dark it is in this room because you're using these flashlights on your phones.
No, they're secret intelligence lighting devices.
Yes. The way we have it framed, you're evil because you're in the shadows. We're good because we have a giant light casting behind.
Exactly.
It's framing 101. We're
Am
good.
I in the shadows though? Am I in the shadows though?
Where'd he go?
Three, two.
I do the show, don't mean